What's up everybody, it's Izzy from Powerlifting to Win, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing Sheiko's novice routine. But before I get into that, first I want to address one key point. One of my main intentions with this video series was not to deliver judgment on what programs are good and what programs are bad. Rather, the primary purpose was to show that actually most programs are pretty good. It's just that some are better. The response to the programming series thus far has been overwhelming. If you're one of the people who's really liked it thus far, I highly recommend that you pick up a copy of Practical Programming 3rd edition. In my opinion, this is the single best introductory book to proper programming ever written. It's simultaneously academically rigorous, and yet it's readable enough that the average novice will understand what is being written in the book. If you fancy yourself a student of the game, I promise you won't regret investing in practical programming. Okay guys, I'm pretty excited about this one. We're going to take a crack at Boris Sheiko's novice routine. Now, unlike a lot of the other novice programs we've looked at, this one was written by an actual powerlifting coach. And not just any powerlifting coach, Boris Sheiko has helped develop multiple all-time world record holders and world champions, such as Andrei Bayev, Konstantin Pozdiev, Kirill Sarachev, Alexei Sivakan, and many more. Before I launch into the actual program, which is really quite complex, I'd like to give you some context for the novices that Sheiko is typically working with. The entire program is written from the perspective that a coach will be handling a large group of 13 to 15-year-olds. In Russia, powerlifters are set down their chosen course a lot sooner than typically happens in the USA. The choice of sports is very deliberate. As such, Sheiko feels that the primary intent of the novice program should be to increase general physical preparation and to develop the technique of the lifter. Keep in mind that these are 13 to 15-year-olds, so it's going to be different than what you've seen in other novice programs. You'll start to understand once you see the beast of the program itself. Here it is. Alright guys, I know this chart is a bit hard to see, but rest assured I will include a link to the full routine in the description box, so you'll be able to see this chart as well as the original translation that I took the programming from. Now, I'm not going to read this whole monster of a program to you, but I do want to draw your attention to a few important facts. Out of all the training sessions, you notice that there's generally 1 to 2 big time movements, and what I mean by that is you're doing a squat or a squat variant, a bench or a bench variant, or a deadlift or a deadlift variant, right? So on Monday and Friday, you're doing a squat variant and a bench variant for the most part. And then on Wednesday, you're doing a deadlift of some kind with a lighter bench variant that usually focuses on shoulders, such as incline or seated press, for example. Now, one other really interesting thing to note is that you play sports every Friday for 30 to 45 minutes, which is something that you're not going to see in any American novice program, and it's there for general physical preparation purposes. In fact, if you look at the program, you'll realize that more than half of the exercises are GPP exercises. And really, most of the volume in the program comes from the general physical preparation exercises, such as lunges, push-ups, sit-ups. That's where you're getting a lot of the volume here. So you can see Sheiko feels it's very, very important for novices to develop their overall coordination and movement ability. And that's why there's just so much GPP. But nonetheless, the key points here are that you got quite a bit of assistance. You're going to have bench on Monday and Friday, heavy and heavy variants. And then on Wednesday, you're going to do deadlifts and a lighter bench variant. But you're still benching 3 times a week, squatting twice a week, and deadlifting once. So interesting stuff. Again, this is going to be in the description box, so if you want to take a closer look at it, and I really recommend that you do because it's a lot to digest, it'll be there for you. So check the description box. As you can see, just like the other novice programs that we've looked at, Sheiko's program is not divided into specific phases focusing on hypertrophy, technique, and overall strength. In fact, probably because of the age range of the lifters that he's working with, the program focuses pretty explicitly on technical development and general physical preparation. This is a markedly different approach from typical American powerlifting programs. Clearly, the programming in Sheiko's novice routine is unlike anything else we've examined before. Not only is every single workout different in terms of sets, reps, and exercises, but the volume actually tapers up over the weeks as well. This is primarily due to the fact that Sheiko uses this novice routine to prepare beginners for his intermediate routines, which are also incredibly high volume. As such, one of the main objectives of Sheiko's novice routine, and the reason why the volume tapers up over the course of the entire training cycle, is that he's trying to develop these novices' work capacity so that they can survive his intermediate programs. Sheiko's program is purposely fairly general in the exercise selection. More than half of the movements of each workout are what are called GPP exercises, or general physical preparation. Now this includes exercises such as dumbbell flies, lunges, push-ups, and things of that nature. On the other hand, the core 1 or 2 movements in every single training session are either specific or general specific exercises. For example, it's either a bench press or a close grip bench. Now a close grip bench is not entirely specific to powerlifting, but it's still fairly specific to the bench press because it's a close variant. An overhead press would be less specific than a close grip bench press to the bench, and a squat would be even less specific than an overhead press is to the bench press. Just to give you a quick idea on specificity. Now let's dig into this a little bit further. Unlike virtually all American programs, this one features virtually no upper back work and very little overhead pressing. The main exercises that are selected are squats, box squats, bench presses of various different grip widths, bench presses at different angles, deadlifts, and deadlifts of different rack heights. On the other hand, the majority of the movements are not the actual power lifts themselves. Out of the 5 to 6 exercises that you do each workout, 4 to 5 of them are very general or even GPP exercises. Generally speaking, Sheiko did this because it's easier for novices to learn. A box squat is easier to teach than a free squat. It's easier to maintain form on a rack pull than it is on a deadlift from the floor. However, the trade-off is that novices don't get as much of a chance to learn to do the actual movements correctly. In my opinion, if technical development is to be a focus of your program, you need to be doing the actual competition movements, and you need to be doing them frequently. Sheiko's novice routine features twice weekly squatting, thrice weekly benching, and once weekly deadlifting. Honestly, for novices, in my opinion, this is just fine. However, because so many of them are general specific exercises, throughout a 6-week cycle, in Sheiko's novice routine, you're only doing free squats 8 times. In my opinion, this is just not specific enough to optimize the development of a young novice. Overload is actually managed through regulation on this program. That is, the coach watches the lifters and prescribes for them a minimum weight. If it's too easy, the coach, using his judgment, raises the weight. So, unlike other novice programs, which are tied to a fixed linear increase every single workout, with Sheiko's novice routine, you actually progress at your own rate. Now this leads us right into individual differences. Everybody progresses at their own rate. However, the variation with novices is even more extreme than in any other group. So, having a coach regulate your weights for you is a great thing. It allows you to make progress faster than you otherwise could. Here's the thing, linear progression is a bit of a farce. Really, the strength potential curve is more of a logarithmic function, that it increases at a decreasing rate. You're not going to continue to make progress in steady, even jumps. So, by having a coach regulate your weights, what it's going to do is allow you to make progress much more quickly in the first few months, and then when it's appropriate in the latter half of your novice phase, you'll slow down those incremental increases and you'll make progress at a more appropriate and sustainable rate than if you had just tried to force feed a specific linear increase. Okay guys, what I really want you to pay attention here is the rate of adaptation curve. You see, it's decreasing at a decreasing rate, which is exactly what happens when you're a novice, right? At the beginning of your novice phase, you could add 15 to 20 pounds per workout, no problem, but that doesn't last very long. Then you'll go through a phase where 5 to 10 pounds is possible. However, by the end of the novice phase, you're going to struggle to add 2 to 3 pounds per workout. Now, if you do 5 pounds the entire time, at the beginning you're going needlessly slow, and at the end you're going too fast. And that's because, like I said, linear progression doesn't really Linear progression does not approximate what's actually happening. You can see here that we're on a curve, and when you use linear progression, you're trying to force fit a straight line onto a curve. So hopefully this clarifies what I was talking about when I said that linear progression is a bit of a farce. I'm not saying it doesn't work, I'm just saying it doesn't represent what's actually happening in terms of your adaptation rate. Now, of course, this is great for novices, but there's only one problem. Most novices do not have an experienced powerlifting coach watching their every move. So the entire overload concept is infeasible without an actual coach. If you don't have a coach, you can't do the program. The program offers variety in intensity and volume right from the very beginning. Unlike starting strengths or strong lifts, every workout on this program is completely different. Sheiko uses intermediate programming methods for his novice trainees. The volumes are absolutely enormous compared to your typical American program. If your typical American program's 3 main goals for a novice are technical development, hypertrophy, and increase in max strength, it wouldn't be too much of an exaggeration to say that Sheiko's main 3 goals on the novice program are technical development, general physical preparation, and work capacity, which really just means how well you tolerate volume. In my opinion, these volumes are much too high. Sheiko uses these high volumes because all of his programs feature supremely high volumes. If you take a look, as you move from the rated lifter programs up to the master and sport programs, what you see is jumps in frequency and volume that are very significant. So one of the purposes here is to get these novices accustomed to these large workloads so they can have a successful intermediate phase as well. This makes perfect sense, but again, it's just completely unnecessary in my opinion. Programs like starting strength and strong lifts prove that you don't need volumes this high in order for a novice to have outstanding progress. So what ends up happening is that you get sucked into these super high volume programs very early, and then as you advance as a trainee, there's really nowhere left to go. You can only push volume so high before you run out of time in the day. If you start off with lower volume programs, it gives you more time to work up to these higher volume programs once they're more appropriate. And they're more appropriate at the later stages of your training career where there's nothing else left for you to do but to do these high volume programs so that you can squeeze out the last of your genetic potential. Overall, I cannot recommend this program because you simply cannot run it without a coach. The overload method requires the coach to regulate your weights for you. However, it is instructive to note that linear progression is not the only viable option for the novice trainee. In fact, there are other alternatives that are theoretically better. My specific criticisms of this program really boils down to 2 main points. I don't feel that it is specific enough. There's too many box squats, too many different bench presses of different grips. The rack pulls are just unnecessary in my opinion. And secondly, these volumes are just ridiculous. They're too high and completely unnecessary. You don't need to do volumes this high, and starting strength proves it. I chose to review this program because of the unique attributes that it possesses compared to typical American programs. Namely, Sheiko feels that GPP is very important. GPP increases intra and intermuscular coordination, hypertrophy, and it adds variety and fun to the program that's so often missing from some of these other routines where you do the same thing every single time. Hell, keep in mind that Sheiko has these kids playing sports games every Friday. That's pretty cool. Additionally, I really wanted to highlight the fact that not every powerlifting coach believes that you need to do a ton of upper back volume and a bunch of overhead pressing. Typical American novice programs take for granted the fact that you should be doing lots of rows and chin-ups and that your bench to press ratio should be 1-to-1. Sheiko, on the other hand, has almost no upper back work whatsoever and has his novice trainees bench 3 times a week and use all of that volume that was going to rows and chin-ups to simply do more deadlifts. I feel that these aspects are upgrades to the typical American programs. So again, I cannot recommend that you guys go out and actually use this program. However, I hope it's been instructive looking at something this different so that we can all expand our horizons on what may be appropriate and optimal in terms of novice programming. When I release the PowerliftingToWin novice program, you guys are going to realize that I drew many of the elements from Sheiko's ideas. I know many of you are anxious for me to start getting into intermediate program reviews. However, there are some beginner programs that we still have to cover. So in the next review, I'll be looking over I'll be looking over Johnny Payne's graceful linear progression method. Just to reiterate what I said at the beginning of the video, if you've been enjoying these advanced theoretical discussions on what constitutes proper powerlifting programming, I highly recommend that you pick up a copy of Practical Programming. You can get the Kindle edition for $9.99. It's worth way more than that. In my opinion, as a novice or early intermediate trainee, reading Practical Programming is going to do more to set you down the right path than any other single book. If you guys found this content interesting, informative, or entertaining, please like, share, and send it out into the interwebs for me. Subscribe if you haven't already, and don't forget to check out PowerliftingToWin.com for more great powerlifting information. Have a nice day.